My ex-fiancée stole my inheritance, used it to pay for our wedding, then tried to leave me with nothing but the debt. So picture this. I'm engaged to Lavra, who I've been with for about 4 years. Everything seems perfect, right? We're planning this big, beautiful wedding. Laura's handling most of the details because, honestly, I'm just happy to be marrying her. She tells me her parents are generously covering most of the costs, which was a huge relief. I'm not exactly rolling in cash, but I do have an inheritance from my grandmother. It wasn't a life-changing amount, but it was about $40,000, sitting in a separate account I rarely touched. This was my safety net, my future house deposit, you know. A few months before the wedding, my grandmother's sister, my great-aunt, passes away. It was sad, but she lived a long life. I mention this to Lavra, and she's sympathetic. The funeral is out of state, so I pack a bag and go for a few days to be with family. While I'm there, I get a fraud alert from my bank. It's for that inheritance account. The notification is for a $15,000 transfer to a catering company. I immediately freeze, thinking my account's been hacked. I call the bank, freaking out, and they tell me the transfer was authorized from my home IP address, using my saved password on my desktop computer. My blood runs cold. The only person with access to my apartment is Lavra. There's no way, right? It has to be a mistake. I try calling her, but she doesn't pick up. She just sends a text saying she's busy with last-minute wedding stuff and can't talk. Busy? My inheritance is being drained, and she's busy? Alarm bells are screaming in my head now. So, I do something I never thought I'd do. I log into our shared tablet, which is synced to her phone, and I check her messages. What I find makes me want to throw up. She has a whole group chat with her bridesmaids titled Securing the Bag. I kid you not. I scroll through months of messages. It's all there. Lavra bragging about how her parents aren't paying a dime for the wedding. She'd been systematically siphoning money from my inheritance account for months. The 15 grand for the caterer was just the latest payment. She'd already paid for the venue, her ridiculously expensive dress, the florist, everything. The total, so far, was nearly $35,000. All of it was my money. My grandmother's money. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was the plan. In the chat, she laid it all out. She was planning to go through with the wedding, enjoy the massive party I paid for, and then, a few months later, file for divorce. Her logic? In our state, any debt incurred during the marriage is shared. But since the money came from my premarital inheritance, she thought she could argue that the assets were mine, but the bills for the wedding were marital debt. She planned to walk away with half of whatever was left and saddle me with the bills for a party I unknowingly threw for her. Her friends were all cheering her on, calling her a genius. One of them literally wrote, "Girl boss move, get that bread and dump the dead weight." Dead weight? That's me, apparently. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. I'm sitting in my great-aunt's old house, surrounded by grieving family, and I find out my entire life is a lie. My fiancé is a con artist. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something, but instead, I took screenshots of everything. Every single message, every bank transfer notification, every smug little comment from her and her scumbag friends. Then I called my lawyer. I explained the situation, and he basically said, "Don't say a word to her. Come back home and we'll handle this." So I fly back home, acting like nothing's wrong. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Laura picks me up from the airport, all smiles, asking about my family. The whole time, I'm just looking at her, thinking about those messages. Securing the bag, how could I have been so blind? For the next 2 weeks, I played the part of the happy, clueless fiancé. We went to cake tastings, I got fitted for my tux, all while my lawyer was preparing a bombshell. The day before the wedding, all our vendors were paid in full, using the last of my inheritance. Lavra was practically glowing. She thought she'd pulled it off. The morning of the wedding, I wake up early. Laura's off with her bridesmaids, getting her hair and makeup done. That's when I made my move. I packed a suitcase with all my things. Then, I sat down and wrote a note. I put it on her pillow, right next to a thick printout of all her group chat messages. Then I went to my parents' house. My dad opens the door, sees the look on my face, and just pulls me into a hug. I called Laura's parents and told them the wedding was off and that they should probably check on their daughter. About an hour later, my phone starts blowing up. It's Laura, screaming, crying, calling me every name in the book. How could I do this to her? I ruined her big day. I just let her scream until she ran out of breath, and then I said, "You mean the big day I paid for? The one you were going to use to ruin my life? No thanks." Then I hung up and blocked her number. My lawyer had already sent cease and desist letters to her and her parents, along with a demand for full repayment of the $40,000, citing fraud and theft. The evidence was undeniable. Her parents, who are apparently decent people, and were horrified, immediately agreed to pay me back in full to avoid a lawsuit. They were so embarrassed. They had no idea she'd lied to them too, telling them I was footing the bill. The fallout was epic. Her girl boss bridesmaids all scattered like roaches when the lights came on, deleting the chat and pretending they knew nothing. Lavra had to move back in with her parents, completely humiliated. She tried to blast me on social media, of course, painting me as the villain who left her at the altar, but it didn't work. I had the receipts, literally. I never posted them publicly, But word got around. She became a pariah. As for me, I got my money back. I dodged the biggest bullet of my life, and I learned a very, very expensive lesson. Never ignore that gut feeling, and definitely don't share your computer password. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.